It's getting close to Christmas, and Santa's coming down the chimney, and still, the Philadelphia 76ers haven't moved NBA All-Star Ben Simmons, despite him not being a part of the team. It's clear the 76ers have lofty aspirations when it comes to the potential return that they seek in a trade involving Simmons, and rightfully so. You guys, considering he's their only other All-Star aside from Joel Embiid, and the team is limited on assets to acquire another standout, whether it's Damian Lillard, James Harden, Bradley Beal, or even Jaylen Brown, the 76ers are not currently facing a situation where what they seek is available on the NBA trade block. The 76ers are seriously running into a risk of wasting one of Joel Embiid's prime years if they do not move on from Simmons before the NBA trade deadline. One team that could benefit from trying to make a big move right now is the Dallas Mavericks, who sought to add a secondary ball handler to pair with Luka Doncic in the offseason, but those efforts came up empty. Let's take a look at a 3-team trade that I have for you guys today. It's completely centered around Ben Simmons, and the teams that it involves are the Dallas Mavericks, the New York Knicks, and the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's get right into the trade. Dallas Mavericks, they're going to get Ben Simmons and Kemba Walker. The New York Knicks, they're going to get a guy by the name of Charles Bassey. The 76ers, they're going to receive Jalen Brunson, Tim Hardaway Jr., Dorian Finney-Smith from the Dallas Mavericks, a 2025 first-round pick, which is very key, is lottery protected. Now, there's a bit to unpack in this NBA trade scenario. So, the clear focus among all of these moving parts is going to be Ben Simmons, being on the move from the Philadelphia 76ers to the Dallas Mavericks, ending many months of a standoff between the player and the franchise. Right now, every trade that is out there about Ben Simmons involves Kristaps Porzingis, but there's some speculation of the Mavericks having a logical outcome to be able to move Porzingis for Simmons. It just doesn't make sense. So, instead of moving Porzingis, I had them moving Jalen Brunson, Tim Hardaway Jr., Dorian Finney-Smith, and a future lottery protected first rounder included. The New York Knicks would work their way into this trade just so that they could dump Kemba Walker's contract, with the Mavericks being the team to acquire him. Let's take a look how this 3-team trade is centered around Ben Simmons would impact the Dallas Mavericks, the New York Knicks, and the 76ers. Let's start with the Dallas Mavericks side of the ball. They appear to be in a situation where making a major move could be logical, but they need to be careful on how they execute the given that they are limited on trade assets. A player like Simmons who can get to the rim, cut off the ball, play in the dunker spot, and be an elite overall defensive presence has clear upside. He would also be the secondary ball handler to the Mavericks attempted to acquire in the offseason, but failed to do so. There would be somewhat of a risk for the Mavericks to consider though. Taking on Kemba Walker certainly has its own red flags, but so does the potential fit of Ben Simmons with a ball-dominant perimeter player like Luka Doncic. Simmons has clear limitations within the half court, as he isn't a shot creator, and he has struggled to convert consistently from the free throw line. The Mavericks would need him to play a point forward role with Kristaps Porzingis shooting offering, needing spacing at the 5 spot. The added defensive versatility of having Simmons spend time defensively either switching ball screens or serving as the low man in the help defense would elevate the Mavericks' half-court defense in much-needed ways. Taking a flyer on Walker's shot creation would be intriguing as well. So what did the Knicks get out of all this? They have tried to move on from Kemba Walker in trade talks, but have not experienced a breakthrough in talks so far. With concerns about Walker's knee dating back to his Boston Celtics tenure, there doesn't appear to be much of an outlook for him to make his way back into the Knicks rotation. There perhaps no better way for the Knicks to move Walker than to get involved in a blockbuster trade that already has to include large amounts of salary. A deal involving Ben Simmons would certainly fit that mold. I need you guys to understand, what the Knicks receive in the deal of this kind isn't what's really important from their perspective. The idea is addition by subtraction, since Walker isn't going to be a factor going forward. Charles Bassey would be a solid depth piece to add into the mix, however. He's shown some flashes with the Philadelphia 76ers and could help to have depth in the front court. Would this trade make sense for the Philadelphia 76ers? Giving up Ben Simmons in a trade is not something the Sixers necessarily want to do, but with the fracture in their relationship, they're forced to. The type of return the 76ers would receive in this one would be a little underwhelming, to say the least. Jalen Brunson, he's a 25-year-old guard who hasn't necessarily emerged as a full-time starter in the NBA. Brunson has shown to be effective at getting to the rim for finishes and has some shot creation chops. He's not free of limitations, however. For starters, he's not much of a facilitator, and he struggled to transcend against matchups that feature length. Tim Hardaway Jr. and Dorian Finney-Smith could be solid depth pieces to add as floor spacers around Joel Embiid in a vacuum. But do the 76ers actually need them right now? If the 76ers are keen on moving on from Furkan Korkmaz at some point, Hardaway Jr. would make that easy to do, and Finney-Smith can add length to the rotation on the wing. None of these players offer a dynamic element or high upside, making this a tough trade for Philadelphia to accept. There's also been reports out there saying that Luka Doncic wants to play with Ben Simmons. According to Austin Krell, Doncic has expressed interest in teaming up with Simmons. That interest goes back to the summer when it was first reported that he had requested a trade from the 76ers. Pairing Doncic and Simmons together, that would be a lot of fun to watch, you guys. If the Mavericks kept Kristaps Porzingis in this scenario, they would have quite a trio to build around and compete within the Western Conference. Simmons would help solidify a Mavericks defense, of course, and they haven't been so hot this season. They're currently 19th in the NBA, according to Basketball Reference, and Simmons would help turn that around instantly. To conclude, I think the 76ers realize that they're not going to get the value that they're looking for in a Ben Simmons trade. In the comment section, I have a question for you guys. Let me know what you think about this trade. Is it a win-win for both teams? Do the New York Knicks actually think that they can get something in return for Kemba Walker? Would Kemba Walker be a good fit for the Mavericks? But you guys will be back tomorrow better than ever with some more NBA content. But until then, I'll save y'all a seat. Peace.